This company's never been more profitable.
You mean hugely profitable?
I like it.
DavePorter.com presents The Profitable Cleaner, a podcast on commercial cleaning sales and entrepreneurship. The one podcast that's not afraid to discuss real sales strategies with real cleaning professionals that produce real profits and real results.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Profitable Cleaner podcast. Man, like Bradley says, I have a real special treat for you guys today. Not only do I have James, but I have Alex Melgar. Alex, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Oh, welcome, guy. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Well, guys, today we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about going from a small company to growing to where he's at. He's a CEO, Ambassador USA, and recently, through the Business Journal, been mentioned as top CEO, one of the best CEOs. Is that right?
That is correct. I was nominee, and then I went to the finals, and there's going to be an award soon. I believe it's sometime mid-August.
Woo, awesome. Well, this is going to age well. This is going to age well when you win it. So we're excited to have you win it. But Alex, for the people that don't know you, that they've never heard of you, tell us a little bit about kind of what got you into this industry, where you're from. Just give us that whole story for us.
I started in the janitorial maintenance industry, what I call maintenance services, back in 2002, right after high school. I'm original from El Salvador, Central America. I started my career as a janitor, actually a carpet technician. I make the joke and I say I should have asked how much they're going to pay me, but that's another story or another time. Nothing. I've been part of this industry now 20 years, play all the roles from janitor to supervisor, manager, you name it. We currently provide services primarily in the state of Texas, but we service in other 17 states. And Ambassador Services have a labor force of just 800 direct employees and by 200 contractors nationwide.
Wow.
800
That's
employees.
pretty big. When you first started this journey, Alex, did you picture 800 employees, 200 contractors, and where you're at now? I mean, how do you go from being a carpet technician to 800 plus employees?
How do you get there? Working hard, working smart. It's not only working hard, but you got to work smart. I know we were talking earlier, and I forgot to mention, but there was one advice that I got as I moved from being a janitor working at a high school in Nashville, Tennessee. I was the supervisor of the janitorial company there. And I remember when I first started my company, I probably have 5, 6 employees. I told myself I'm going to go back, after several years to the school when I used to be a supervisor. So I just decided, pop in there. I knew the superintendent of the maintenance department, and I approached him and I say, hey, I would like to be of your services. I know your building, you remember me. And he was so happy. He gave me a tour of the school. But before we finished, once before I left, I remember he put me right on the back and he said, I'm so happy of you now doing this for yourself. And I said, but I'm more happy that you learn how to work smart instead of being working hard. And it was a big advice, and at first it got me, and I told myself, did he say something nice to me or something not too nice to me? But no, what really stuck with me after that was that I told myself, so it means that if I do more of the smart stuff, I will work less hard. So I'm gonna work smart every time. So it was one of the things I did.
I gotta ask, because somebody listening, we get a lot of commercial cleaning companies listening in, and they're probably like, what do you mean work smart versus hard? What are some smart versus hard types of business? Because I know a lot of CEOs get stuck working in the business, or like they end up cleaning themselves still, or when they call in and they'll go in and replace the employee or something like that. Like, What's hard versus smart? How can they identify the differences, I guess? Or if you have any examples.
Well, there's sacrifice on all the way, right? I mean, it's like going to the gym. I mean, you first lift 10 pounds, then you go to 20 and so forth. So you're still gonna work hard, but the idea is that you will do more of the smart things. Like for instance, I always pitch to you must know your customers, understand your customer. Who's your perfect customer? When I first started this journey, I told myself I'll pick anything and everything, throw my way. And that worked. But later, as you get more experience, then you learn that, you should be more selective with your customers, and understanding your customers and understanding who is the perfect customer fit for you will be one of those smart moves. I mean, I used to have customers, 2, 3 in the morning. They want me to service my, terms in my contract that later, got me by, not understanding, what I was getting into and things. So it will save you a lot of, smart means like information. You need to have information about your business, metrics and things of that nature. You learn, you will evolve when you are. And I'll tell you one thing: this start at a really early stage in the life of your business, because it's really hard to catch up later. Very hard, and I learned that later.
I think that's well said, talking about building like good business habits earlier on so you don't have to like do it later on. I was actually along those lines. I was thinking when you were talking there, at what point, Alex, were you like a smaller company, new to doing your own thing, and like what point did like the tides turn to where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go grow to however many employees, multiple states. At what point did that switch kind of happen, or was that always the goal?
Let's say that you always, when people ask you how big you want to be, originally, people ask me, "Oh, what are your goals?" I say, "I want to be big." I don't think I really, at one point, I have that clear idea what big means, right? And the challenge that it comes with it. There's different challenges at different levels. Sometimes we were ready, sometimes we were not ready for those challenges. So I think there was a point when I realized that we were part of that 1%, as you mentioned, of the companies in the janitorial maintenance industry. I'm part of this program, with other roundtable CEOs, and they start talking about the size of the business, and then they say, well, the individuals that have this number of employees, it goes in this category and so forth. Then they got me and they say like, oh no, you are considered a large employer, so you are a large company. Then I start thinking, well, really, how many companies are out there? I was focused just on working and keep going. To say, that was my focus, our focus, as you said.
That's really cool. I think there is something about putting your head down, like you said, making the right moves, learning the business, falling in love with what you're doing, right? And then, like you said, out of nowhere, people are like, "Oh no, sorry, Alex, you're not in this conversation. You're in the large conversation." And you're like, "What? What do you mean?" That's kind of cool though, because that just tells me that you as a leader, again, it's you were just kind of leading, doing your thing, and growing the company. If you could give the people here some advice on leadership, because again, the Alex of 2022 being nominated to the Alex that has 6 employees going back to Nashville to talk to a school, what have been like your biggest lessons on evolving as a leader?
You must pick your team right. Your team you would evolve. We talk about how you evolve, right, through this journey and how important that is. Earlier we were talking about, say, the biggest thing I learned or that surprised me is that need of continue growing and evolving. You as a CEO, same title when you are my same business card say CEO when we were, at $1 million organization, annual revenues and, 50 employees to now, same title, but it's completely different styles now. And one thing I do now more is communicate across the organization. I'm a lot more careful on how and who we bring on board. Right now, it's a constantly, journey of finding those individuals that say it that train them so that your competitors wants to hire your employees is absolutely true. You have to work and train them the way that when they leave, they wants to come back because they sense that leadership. Right? So one of the biggest things will be that is like, focus on your team, mentor them. Your role will evolve. You need to be a mentor. You can't be the best of what, the best cleaner in your organization. You might do things with more in detail, but you cannot be the best cleaner. You need to let someone else take that leadership, right? You can't be the best accounting on your office. No, there's someone else needs to do it. And that's probably, the biggest thing. Trust your team, train them well, treat them well. They will take you there.
I like that. I'm curious, Alex, because you're in a leadership position at a whole different level than a lot of leaders get to in this industry. Mm-hmm. When you're hiring other leaders as a leader yourself, what are some qualities you look for in leadership positions that you're hiring, whether that's a director or a manager?
Good question.
What are those qualities that you're looking for?
Culture is huge at Ambassador Services. We focus a lot on that. So we are looking at individuals that, are humble, that understand or being, have at least been in positions of leadership before, that understand our vision. And one of the things we do is we ask them questions, about, how they see themselves. And as the question earlier, I didn't have an idea really how, we're looking at now individuals that have more precise goals in their life, because that tells me, how long they will be with our organization. But beyond that, I think it's more about that desire to mentor that we're looking for, right? Someone, and you get those little tips, from that in those interviews. If you structure that interview properly, then they will tell you, what is your management style. Tell me how you like to be managed. Tell me what are your short-term goals, long-term goals. And, you get answers like, oh, well, I would like to, scale with the organization and goals. And those sounds good as a long-term. But when someone is going to come and join your organization in a leadership role, what I like to hear is, I would like my team to be able to operate without myself. Mm-hmm. I would like to grow my team. I would like my team to be able to move up in the organization. It tells you that they are so focused on being a leader, right? They're having just their own personal goals. This one, and obviously, as you grow, you have other tools. We about 7-8 years ago, we started implementing Bergman Test, which is a
Yeah.
work style and personality test.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really define. Are you familiar with any of those?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love disc personality disc training. I love disc, but
Yeah,
Bergman's good too.
doesn't define the. I mean, like what someone, but it helped me to understand how they need to be managed sometimes and how they like to be managed.
Hmm.
It's two different things.
I really like that. No, and it makes sense, right? How, yeah, I can be a quote unquote awesome leader from my perspective, of course, but if they don't feel, think, interact that way, then obviously I'm doing something wrong. So I think personality test and having the right systems in place is super important for that. I always I love that you said one thing that stuck with me is like I want the best of the best. I don't want to be the best, but I want the best of the best. And I think that is something awesome because it's like you go to accounting or you're financial person and you're like, oh, yeah, we'll talk it through, but this is yours. Like you own it. And it's almost like they're almost like owners of Ambassador versus just like a W-2 employee. You're almost creating like this culture of ownership, which is really interesting. I think a lot of leaders put their ego there and they're like, oh no, 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 no. I gotta be the best one at everything, you know.
It is true. One say here, and you, Andrew, you have the opportunity to be our office, and there's a big sign. We try to promote that culture. And again, when we talk about, the different stages in the life cycle of a business, this is things that I learned with time, right? And I pitch this to new business owners. They're trying to scale up. You don't say, I'm going to get big to do these things. You do these things to get big, right? So you have to have your mindset to say, I'm not, oh yeah, you're doing it because you're big. No, it's these things that actually help us to get there. And in the ego, in regard to the ego, I think, there's a big signage in our office. It is say, everyone is a CEO of something.
Mm-hmm.
And that means make decisions that will benefit the entire organization.
I think that's well said.
Ooh,
I
say
think
that
that's
one
really well
again.
said.
Jesus, everyone's the CEO of something. I think we forget that, man. We forget that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm curious, Alex. I got two questions for you. I think one's going to be an easy one. One might be a little bit more difficult. We'll start with the easy one first. We'll start with the easy one first.
Okay.
At your stage in business now,
Mm-hmm.
multiple millions in revenue, 800 plus employees. What gets you excited? What gets you excited like now? Like some people might perceive like, oh, Alex and Ambassador's at the mountaintop. But I know you don't perceive that. What gets you excited now?
Oh, many things, many things. But as I have to say, for me personally, there was also an evolving of my persona as a human being, right? And at one point, and I think it happened to many of us, as we so driven and focused on growing and growing, sometimes we can lose that human touch. And now what excites me is as I walk into the different departments and they have activities that they're having, right? I enjoy that excitement. It makes me very excited to see that team interaction, to think that they're creating bundles together, because that makes my job easier. So when I see that really make me, wants to continue supporting them and helping them to go and grow, as in a small group together, to become, what they want. That excites me. I obviously wants to continue growing. I think we just warm it up, but but yeah, that's really what excites me. Is let them grow to what they want to become and become leaders. Really, really exciting.
I think that's awesome to see that collaboration and just teamwork and a culture that you built. Here's the tougher question.
That was the easy one.
What?
He's like, whoa.
Yeah, that was the easy one. I'm curious though, because I think people think when like you're big, you made it. You got it easier, right? What keeps you up at night now? Like what keeps you up at night as that business owner? Because there's a business owner listening to this. They might be doing $250,000 in revenue, and they're up at night about a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's you who's doing multiple millions a night. You're up at night at least one night thinking about something. What's that look like?
I'm not gonna I'll tell you through. That's a tough one, by the way. I think the issues don't change. The challenges don't change. What changes is the size of that challenge. So, I used to, let's put it this way, if I was concerned about an employee not showing up because I was a 3-month operation and the customer would not, would come in the morning and the building would have not been served and they will call me and jeopardize my contract, right? Or, hey, can I make payroll, right, tomorrow because the customers haven't paid me? As your organization, as you grow, you start stepping a little away from that information. Right? You can, and I tell our team here when we get together, you have more information than I do. They're the ones, the experts. Like if I have to ask them, hey, who's not showing up? And I will not know. And obviously, I think, but my concern is still the same. But it's more of providing those tools. Like I said, you change. The issues continue being same, just at a different scale. And your role is what evolves. I mean, you need to evolve. Now, my role is to provide those tools, technology per se, right? We talk about technology all the time. Like, my role is to initiate that search for, okay, guys, we need to come up with a technology that allow my managers to, have this type of control so they're not up at nighttime, like I know I've been doing this and I did it and I was concerned so they can have alerts and do this, and all the tools. Being up at night will be, providing those tools to our team, because when you recognize an issue, implementations now are not like I used to. Hey, in 1 week, we do this, we do it now. Doesn't work. Implementations now takes easily 6 months, a year, and some others up to 2 years. So, you really have to be ahead of the game, like looking far out, like a captain on a ship, and say, oh, there's an iceberg, guys. You better, turn now.
Yeah. That's well said.
What I'm curious now, because I think that was a good question. You're right? Things keep you up at night differently, different ways of leading, different ways of seeing things. What are some things you do personally, Alex, to make sure you're showing up as the best leader? Because there's always that one, like we've all seen that leader that's like all business all the time, like 24/7, but they miss the whole, like you said, I need to be a good mentor. I need to take care of myself to be able to take care of them. Do you have any things that you do? For example, again, me is I'll work out every day. Like if I don't work out, James can tell when I don't work out for like 2 or 3 days because I'm not myself. Like I don't show up the same, right? Or read or whatever. Do you do anything like that to keep yourself kind of on top?
Or like keep your mind fresh and going, oh yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I love outdoors. I do love outdoors. And when I mean that, so many, I can be in the water. I can be, I've been, just camping, things of that nature. I like to do that. I spend time with my son. That's very important and helped me, to disconnect. One thing I used to have my office in my bedroom. I used to chair years when I started this business, a chair in my house. We have other, renting the rooms, and so my office was in my room. which I'll tell you later story that I used to dress up and sit down in my chair next to my bedroom, like, dressing up to go to work. And
That's
my
awesome.
office was there. When I was able to get an office, move out of my house or my bedroom, I made a promise and not to bring work home. And it's tough. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I learned that balance, and it's important because you need that time to reset. I even at one point in my office, and people might disagree with me. My office was 3 minutes away from my house, and I thought it was a great idea. Well, I remember myself being in my driveway because our cleaners and service providers, they start at 5 in the afternoon, so I was coming home, and I'm on the phone on the driveway, and I remember my son coming out to me, and he's trying to play, and I'm like, yeah, wait. Then I even make my office farther from home. I'm like 30 minutes drive, so I can, change the mood and get home and relax. So I try very hard not to bring everything that happened at work home. That gives me a very good balance, guys. It really does.
I love that. Yeah, you have to disconnect. You have to disconnect. And it helps you see the full picture. Like whenever I go out, and I don't do nature a lot. I need to learn to do nature more. That's what I've been trying to get into. But you go walk a trail, and then you randomly get a breakthrough on what you had to do in the business, it's just kind of crazy. Like it's just exposure to something else. So that's really cool, man. That's really cool. We
I
gotta
think
kick up
it's
the harder questions, James. I know you have like one or two in there.
Yeah, well, I actually, you kind of were leading into that. I was going to ask at this phase how you manage work-life balance. I'm always curious about that. I'm a father of two young boys, small business, and I struggle immensely with it, right? It's like this internal conflict. And then I speak to other business owners in the janitorial space, and they've either sacrificed families completely for the greater good of the business, or they also struggle with it. So I'm curious, someone like you through the years who is a father, like outside of just disconnecting, but like, has there ever been any conflict with management of work life? And then like, I guess, what's that look like for someone that runs such a huge company? Like work does not stop at 5 p.m. with 800 employees.
It is a constantly battle, but you have to work. You got to think of a work outside work, like that's your full-time job. Being a father, being a husband, and then this is your job, day job or night job, whatever it is, right? It doesn't mean that, for many years I have to, wake up at 1 a.m. or go home and just change and go to work. I'm not going to tell you, oh, that's not going to happen, particularly in the industry, we are in, because your labor force, especially if you are a really small company, you will have to do that. I used to work nighttime doing my own buildings, and daytime I dressed up and I go to knock on doors. So it was times that tough, during that time. It is what it is. But you asking me now what I do now, right? I mean, today things change, right? And remember what I say at the beginning of this, interview. Say my role evolved. Now I let my team do a lot of those things that I used to do. And you get in that predicament of saying, oh, but if I go there, I fix it. And I know how to fix it, right? And at first it's a little tough because you got to stop and say, no, I got to give them a good checklist. I got to tell them where to do, where to look. And if they don't, you need to, it might sound crazy, but you need to see where they fail so then you can fix it. You can provide those tools and support in the areas that they fail. Yeah, sometimes you pay a high price, but long term, you will see back and you will tell yourself, wow, the ones that stuck around, the ones, that actually learned from me, I'm just going to hire more of those guys. Then you start moving up the ladder. Make sense?
Totally.
One of the podcasts we had recently that we really enjoyed was and you know him, so and I hear you talk and I'm like, this makes sense. Efrain.
Oh,
Efrain
Efrain,
came on
yeah,
that, yeah, and he talked everything he does is long term thinking, long term
yeah.
planning, and I'm
I'm gonna
so
meet him
glad that you
tomorrow.
said that because we've talked with like I've talked with cleaners that I mean, they're 2 million and they keep bumping their head at the 2 million. And I'm honestly confident that if we were to go look in there, it's because they're still trying to do everything. They're still trying to have their hand on everything. So they themselves don't allow the business to kind of, like you said, grow on its own, right? Think long term. Because then you don't know where it's actually failing. If you're involved everywhere, it's like almost like an illusion that you have control of the business, but you really don't.
I tell my that's a great point, and how I present this to our managers and some our leaders. Have you ever, if you've been in a football game, been to the stadium or soccer game, whichever you like sports, have you ever noticed it that the guy with the cheapest seat up in the top is the one that screamed the most? Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Move to the
Yeah.
right, to the left. Hey, no, oh. You know why the captain doesn't do that? Why the one in the field doesn't do that? Because his vision is limited. He's a player. The other guy is only absorbing. So you need to position yourself in a way to be able to see the entire game from the top. But if you're playing, you only see the one running next to you. And that's important for anyone that is, starting a business, is to being able to step away from the day-to-day action so then you can see what's working and what's not working. Got to become that, fan of this soccer game. Don't. So it makes to your comment. One thing I forgot to mention, and I don't want to talk too much, but I say one thing important, to do with the leaders or your team is select someone that have strengths that you don't. Don't pick, and this is a mistake. I made this mistake. I've seen some of my managers, directors making this mistake sometimes. And you select someone that is just like you. You pick someone and your partner is just like you and your manager is just like you, because we do believe that we are the best in what we do. Well, guess what? Now we're not good at everything. You should be good at putting people together. And in order to know whether those leaders are effective or not, we implemented something here where there's, employee reviews, right? Well, we do a manager's review. The employees have to review their manager. So we,
I'm like, love that. Oh my goodness.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
sorry for interrupting. Keep
No,
going.
no,
I was just like,
employees.
I wish we had like sound effects, or do we have sound? I think we have sound effects. That would be like a
we
bomb or
probably
something.
do, but I feel like I'm gonna mess it up if I were to try to add one.
Agreed. How do your managers feel about it? I mean, that obviously like transparency, and you definitely lead by example. Like you can't run away from that one. You
No,
cannot. I love it.
no, absolutely not. This is happening. If you go to our website and you go to a section there, employees can post any comments, whether they like it or not, good and
That's
bad.
interesting.
And it's open for any employee. We review those. I don't review them directly, someone else does, but they bring them to me with scorecards. employee satisfaction. And that also works on the exit interviews. And again, guys, you might, for the ones that are listening to the podcast, and they might say, well, that's good when you get big. I'll tell you right now, no, you should do that now. Even when you are managing someone and someone leave the organization, you should ask them why they left. Because I always guarantee you that 9 out of 10 don't leave companies. They leave managers. And so it's important that you don't just rate the manager, rate them. No, have them rate how well is that manager leading them. And that will tell you why they stay.
Sheesh. Honestly, that brings a different level of transparency and a different level of leadership.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, like you said, you can't do those things once you get big. You do them now to get big, right? Like, because then everybody will want to work for you. Literally, like, I can already imagine an interview. By the way, if if something's ever off, you go on the website, you post it. We will review we'll take everything that you say. Like, we'll take your word, basically. And I think that sometimes, like, we hear a lot of people struggling with staffing right now and things like that, that's everywhere, right? Quote unquote. But it's also like, do you have a system? Like, if I had to pick between working for Ambassador as a cleaner or somebody else, and I know that with Ambassador, like, every time I don't feel comfortable or heard or something's going on, I have a direct communication to somebody that would take me serious. I'm like, well, then there you go, right? Like, that is huge, though, man. That is huge. So your managers have to be they have to be performing. They have to be high performers.
Well, we shared these ratings with them. They're anonymous, and so we don't, obviously. And we at one point we started, and we do now some sort of competition, per se, right, on employee retention and customer retention and leadership and so forth. And they know when we hire them, we tell them, look, your employees will rate you. You will be here as long as they want you here. And it happened the same thing here at the office. In other words, you don't have to please me, please your employees, because they're the ones actually, and they're used to a great leadership.
One of my favorite mentors told me once, he's like, hey man, your best client, or the client you have to keep the happiest, is two. The one under you, like whoever you work with hand in hand, and your boss. He's like, the clients, of course you have to keep them happy. He's like, but you have clients all over. Kind of like what you said, now the CEO thing makes sense. Like, you're the CEO of all those relationships, which is really interesting. That's really cool, man. I did not know that. I did not know that. Let me ask you, because I know we're coming up to the time here. Let's say that somebody is just really lazy, Alex, right? Because they work smart. Maybe they work smart, not hard. Let's not call them lazy. They just work smart. So they're like, you know what? Just like any good old book, I'm just going to go to the end of the podcast, hear the last 2-3 minutes. I don't want to hear everything else. Meaning, for the next 2 minutes or minute, Alex, if they didn't take anything away from the podcast that we just recorded, but they could take away 1 or 2 things that you're about to just drop some gold on. I was like, put pressure. What would that be? What would you share with them?
Work smart, not hard. Pick your team, support them. And in order to achieve things or to reach those goals, you need to be the first one to grow. You need to grow first before your company grows. Surround yourself with other individuals, same industry, listen to podcasts like this, and be humble about the issues that the company goes through. I used to keep all those to myself, and I used to keep it a very secret till, I was the only one dealing with that. And now we just share it with everyone. We just tell them what's broken. So everyone recognizes it, takes a buy-in into the issue, And I challenge them and I say, how do we fix this? And I promise you, they will start telling you how to fix it.
Boom.
That's awesome.
Honestly, that alone, guys, right there. That alone, right there. A lot of CEOs, man, they take all the problems to the grave, and you can't do that. There's a reason you have a team. There's a reason you're trying to grow. I love the grow before your company does. No one does that. No one does that. When they do the whole like, when I'm here, then I'll do this. When I'm here, I'll do this. Nope. We just literally did another podcast where I just spoke, and I'm like, you can't be the what if person or when this happens person. You have to behavior. I always tell people I'm already a millionaire. Just in case you guys didn't know, by the way, I'm already a millionaire. I'm just the wire transfer is taking a couple years here. So I always say, like, I gotta act like the guy that's already making millions of dollars. I can't act like that. Behavior comes ahead of success, and then eventually they'll meet. And by the time that happens, I'm like, oh, that's why they say people that win the lottery, they end up broke more than the people that don't ever win the lottery, because they don't even understand how to handle money, how to manage it. So anyways, guys, honestly, this was an awesome podcast. James, you want to close this out?
Awesome
Anything you want to
podcast.
say?
Alex, I just want to thank you for your time, man. I'm pretty confident that your experience and level that you've achieved is one in the top 1% of our guests on this show. And I think a lot of the janitors and just commercial cleaning owners are going to gain a lot from you. We're going to link your LinkedIn in the show notes below. Obviously, we'll link Ambassador and everything else you're involved with in the show notes. So thank you so much, man. This was really a good time.
Is there any way our listeners can support you, Alex? I know you probably have some, we'll get a couple listens. I say a couple, but definitely more than a couple. But any way we can support you?
It's always good to connect with them. So if you see me on LinkedIn, so add me in there. If you're looking for some work in other states,